Hello, lovelies. This is a bertablab. I've got Jodie Eid with me at the moment, and we're just going to have a chat about what Jodes does. And if anyone's on live and they want to have a sample mini session or a bit of work with Jodie, we can do that. And if there's no one on, then I'm going to guinea pig, which would be great.
And this
and
is Mark.
Hello.
He's the
Don't dive out of it on my account. I'll just quickly over here.
He's the other side of the temple state. So I'm the girl part, and he's the boy part.
One with the beard.
Yeah.
So balanced. You clevers.
I shaved mine off this morning, so all good. Mine's got a lot more grey than Mark's, so I couldn't keep it. It would be. Really.
Would have been dating, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and mine would grow it like that. I wouldn't trim it or anything because it's like how I roll.
I always wondered if I never shaved and if I'd get one of those really thin kind of Confucius-y numbers. I wondered if shaving actually makes it more voracious, but maybe it's not like that.
The Chinese seem to have not much luck with growing it, though. Maybe that's why it's
stick on. Yeah. Go with glasses.
You could go Movember. In March.
I have a little she beard over here, just a little one, just a little thin downy one, and then I get the odd freak hair. This is a great topic of conversation. I think it's a good point. I think it's a good point about Tantra, that Tantra... I actually spoke to a psychologist the other day, and she asked me if I had a Facebook group, and I said, yeah, I have a Facebook group called Tantra for Business, and she was like, I could see her trying to integrate that information. And she was like, but Tantra like sex? And I was like, well, I know that's the common perception of Tantra, but I don't really, we know what Tantra is, and I guess everyone has their own experience of what Tantra is, but was very hard for me to break it down in an instant. So I guess we could talk about that, what Tantra is and what Tantra isn't a little bit, because that's your thing. Am I right? Not being too presumptuous.
Yeah, that's spot on. It's the word Tantra actually means a practical book. That's where it comes from. Like Eastern Tantra is actually, you can have Tantra for anything from the washing up to your spiritual journey through life. So, it's a kind of practical application of it, but thought out and approached from the Indian Vedic, I think it's Vedic scriptures or something. So there was lots of tantric pathways, but in the 60s, when it came to the West, we were only really interested in the sexy. We were, fun, not interested in the tantra washing up particularly. And so that's why it caught on with that. But it's good. I think it's good that you apply it in business.
Yeah, and I think that a Tantra is just accepting all the different aspects of yourself. And I guess Tantra for business for me meant how I use all the parts of myself to inform my business and not think that I have to compartmentalize or think that any part of me is not fit for my business, that really my business is me. It's like they say, you birth how you live or you die how you live. I guess you business how you live as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would actually fit really well with the stuff you were talking about core.
It's also, we like the stuff we do is actually more Western. I always consider it two different. Whenever we do workshops of Tantra, I always explain to people that we actually teach Western Tantra as opposed to Eastern, because it's such a different approach. And because exactly as what you said earlier about when you told your friend or whoever it was about it, they went, oh, it's about sex, is it? So everyone thinks it's about sex or sensuality always. So it's always the first thing. But that might with core stuff.
What you're saying, it's like you are all of the parts of yourself, and that the things where your strengths are.
Go on.
I would agree with what you're saying about how it actually does fit with all of the things that you actually do. And we have this kind of concept behind it that we talk about doing core principle things. So the things, it's a bit like if you're not actually a good accountant, you're probably not going to do that in your business. You'll find a system that works really easily for you, or you'll find somebody else to do it for you, because the thing that is your strength is the part that you should be spending most of your time doing. Otherwise, you get diluted and, it becomes difficult. And so it's kind of that same principle of, say, being in your body, like, is part of your work, but it's actually the way that you function the best. Then you're living and working within how you actually need to function, if that makes sense. Kind of. Yeah. Do you want to go into?
Are we talking I just got confused about if we were talking about a business or if we're talking about the work that you're doing. Because I guess if I think about being in my body and how that relates to my work, I still have a block about that. Do you know what I mean? I still don't really. I mean, I know I need to have balance in my life and I need to get up and move around sometimes, but I just got confused if you were talking about body as in sensuality work or body as in relating to my business.
I think it's actually just being in, like, not being in your head all the time. That's probably where I'm going with it more so. I'm probably getting really confusing. So you meditate and you do that a lot, and that would be something that's a practice for you to get out of your head and down into your body, which would you then say makes your business and how you are in your business better?
Oh, absolutely. And, like I had that critical moment in the last few months where I was just way over focused on my business, and everyone was talking about self-care and balance and journaling and mindset, and I was like, I don't need that, and I was just like barreling on. And then I had the moment where I was like, I had the aha moment about what I've been saying all along, is that your business is you, that you are your business. But I just had the reality of that. Like, I had the life lesson of, you see how you're not actually walking your talk. Like, you see how you think you can neglect all the other aspects of your life and think that your business is going to go well. Well, it's not. It's going to feel like pushing, and it's going to feel horrible, and it's not going to feel balanced, and you're going to feel really weird and nutty. So I get you.
And you're not results.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just blamed Christmas. But maybe I wasn't getting results. And I guess it depends what results is, like if results is more customers, I don't know if that's always the results for me anyway. Like, really, this is my life. It's not just my business. And so I guess that's what I came to.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm trying to come from too, is that this is actually about making our business something that we actually can do. It's not an extension of us that we have to actually push through, and it has to be difficult and it has to be hard. It should be just something that's no different to, I don't know, brushing your teeth. Some people might not like brushing their teeth, but I like brushing my teeth. But just something that when you're in flow, it works. So if you're choosing to do those core things, which are going to be different for everybody, like you say, meditation works for you. Some people talk about journaling, like those colouring in books. I hate those. I can't do them. But everyone's different, and like a lot of what we do is actually about not being in your head. So that's the majority of our stuff is meditation, tantra, drumming. It's all about actually making the space for yourself inside so that you can be in your heart and connected to yourself from that place. Yeah,
and that's really difficult. Like, I come from an IT background, and it's really heady, and I have to deal with numbers and stress of troubleshooting, and whether the client I'm working with is losing their noodle because the computers aren't working. There's all this stuff, whereas in this line of work we do now, it's been interesting trying to integrate the meditation into the very real practice of running a business. It's really difficult, and you can spend, like you were talking about, you just spend your whole time in your head running stuff, and you actually get quite addicted to it, and you don't want to put it down. And then when you do, you're kind of like missing something, and how you make that transition back to meditating or meditative state is actually quite a journey that's quite uncomfortable. And this is where we started introducing core ideas, like even drumming. If you start drumming, it'll get you there quicker. If you do tantra, you have a hug with someone, that'll get you there quicker. So how do you integrate that into business? And that's one of the where we started looking at calling it core, because it's a definition of whether you're doing work on your core self or whether you're doing work on a sort of business at the head level. Which both are needed, really, in this day and age.
I really resonate with what you said about the addiction thing. I think that's what happened to me. It was like, do something, get a result, and then I felt like, oh, do something else and get another result. And I did get addicted to that, the business. But
to that, I like the story of Indigenous culture I got told about by a guy called Malodoma Salme. And he said the way people in the West now, if they try and do something, they'll work really hard towards it. And then it'll take ages building, like making a bowl or something. They'll build it for ages and get it done all nice and shiny. And he said in Indigenous cultures, they have a party for about 3 days. And then in the last few minutes, they'll kind of chuck a bowl together. And it's the way they approach it is very different. And that's kind of a core method as well, because you're putting so much value into the experience, then you don't spend too much time actually making it. Whereas today, we don't put much value into it. We try and make it done really quickly on a production line or 10,000 bowls. We don't want to make one and then get them out and make loads of money. And it's actually, that's where another aspect of core is looking at old ways that humans would have done things and asking why we don't do it like that anymore.
And so do you think that's like the saying something like, it's the journey, not the destination? Do you think it's sort of like that kind of mindset?
I think so, but that's a cliche, isn't it? No offence to saying it, but it's one of those ones where you put it up as a meme on Facebook and go, yeah, but actually haven't embraced it at all. Whereas when you actually do something, like this is why we do a lot of shrine work as well, because the shrine is somewhere to create sentiment and anchor it there. So the next day when you come back, you go, oh yeah, sat there and I had a good cry yesterday and I spent ages, and it's in a little figurine now, where I look at that every time. And I remember when I cried about something last year and spent some time with this figurine. And it anchors your emotion there, so it becomes more potent. Whereas if you just kind of throw out memes on Facebook or something like that, you've got nothing to attach the real feeling to. So it's gone in a moment. McDonald's culture.
I can totally relate to that, because I thought the other day, oh, this is all so good. How do I actually make it really, how do I capture it and make it tangible? It's like a stream. I'm like, but that was actually good, and now it's just gone.
Yeah. And that's the concept of shrine work, which Indigenous people would do all the time. And it's one of the things we do. And we introduce it with Tantra as well, because it's all part of, it all kind of connects up. Hence the core concept. It's all core stuff.
Hit me again with
the other part.
The other part of what?
The other part of the shrine that is really useful is actually having your business self on there. Like my business self has a personality. She has a name. And because I've struggled with kind of integrating her a lot and owning certain parts of myself and all that kind of stuff. So, she's on the shrine and she has a place, and it just helps me to actually really relate and have that relationship somewhere that's outside of myself, where I still can kind of spend time with. And
it isn't other people's perception of you. So it gives you a place to, in time and space, to anchor your own design of yourself in a way. External though.
Yeah. It's kind of reminding me of when I've been daily journaling, and I write the things that I want to get done. And above that I have like my long-term goals. And then I have, other things I'm going to do if I have time. And then I have another spot down the bottom where I put quotes that are inspiring me at the moment. And so then when I come back to it the next day to write tomorrow's, when I go and look at the one from today, it does that a little bit. But I feel like now I'm looking at this big wad of daily planners that I've been working on and thinking, where does that go? So now I think I'm starting to see the sense of the shrine. The shrine's like your story. Not that it's tying you to something past, but it's that kind of a reminder process.
And it's a container for your sentimentality or your emotion or your feelings and things that matter. So it's somewhere to put it. And the other funny thing is everyone's actually got one. And that's what when we work with people on it, we work as a basis, because I've not come across a single human being that hasn't got one
Already.
And it's just basically you'll have a little bowl of pebbles, or you'll have little things that have sentimental value somewhere in your house that's a place, and you don't really even recognise that you're doing it sometimes.
And the thing too is that you can actually, your whole house can be your shrine. You know, you might have a place specific, but like I like when you come on the camera and we can see all the little things behind you sometimes, and see, it's the special stuff, you know, and each thing's got like some kind of little special thing to you. And when I lived in my family home with my kids, each of my children had something in their room, and it wasn't something that we ever talked about or decided they should have or anything. It was just their special things. And, you know, my son's stuff was different to my daughter's stuff, and we had stuff in the lounge room, blah, blah, blah. So in a lot of ways, we had something that was kind of all over the place, but we did also have a spot that had special things, you know, that were a bit more significant, or things from the past more so, you know.
Yeah, we have this thing at my house called the green thing, which is this old fridge that my husband kind of cut bits off. He got it at the tip, but it's a really nice colour, you know, it's like turquoisey aqua, and then the rust comes through and it's got weird wire. Like, it's so impractical. We're like, what the hell? We love it, but what are we going to do with it? So he put a chunk of wood on top of it because he's a carpenter. And they were like, yeah, well, now what do we do with it? Because it's just not very useful anyway. It's got the yoga stuff kind of in it, which is practical. And then on top, we have a plant, and then we have a side each where we put little things, and we do go and kind of curate it. So I wonder, beyond just like, I have a bunch of birdie stuff because I like have a bird thing. So I have a little bird sculpture and pictures of birds. And if an image just draws me like color wise or something, or someone gives me a card, I just put it there, and it does rotate a bit. But I wonder, is there a way to optimize our shrine? I didn't think we were going to end up talking about this, but I'm really glad we are.
Well, it actually does tie into Tantra in a funny way, but we're going into that now. But, there's lots of aspects to it. There's so many other parts to the shrine that once you become aware of it, you start working with. We do retreats in grief. We do retreats in ancestralization, which means connecting back to your through your DNA almost to your family roots that you may not know anything about, and what the whole story for being here. So it puts you in time and space, not just in this life, but extending that in other ways. And there's a lot of work with another gentleman I did, which is about creating small bundles. So it's almost like an initiation story you can go through, and then that ties you in again to having something that ties you into certain moments in your life that would be relevant for all women or all men. For example, coming of age in some way, and you can create that and have that, and they'd call it a bundle, and they'd have one even for the village, the whole village.
And what goes in the bundle?
What goes in it? Well, you'd have a weekend retreat somewhere, and then you talk about a story that would relate to growing through some experience, and then there'd be certain pieces that you'd bring with you, maybe coloured stones or feathers or sand or stuff that relates to the story that you can work with, that goes into the bundle, and you tie it all up at the end, and it just stays there. And then the next year you go and get the next bit of the story and wrap it up, and you end up with quite a big bundle if you keep going through that sort of thing. But that's just one example of it. And what we've been introducing is also, like you're talking about with Tantra for Business, is really the idea that you could start to create your life or your business by putting it on the shrine, and it becomes part of that story. So it becomes your journey in, if you like, in some of the therapy they use little sand pits for playing with toys and things. And it's quite a powerful way to externalize what you're trying to do. But instead of it rather being one visit to the therapist, this is where you actually start to grow it. I've got one that's been running for 10 years since I first started working with it. And it's a big table full of all sorts of
beads. And how do you bundle it up?
It's not all bundles. I've got a little bundle which I went on a weekend retreat, which it'd take a while to explain it, but it was just a men's initiation ceremony, and it ended up all the things I took. It's wrapped up. It's about yoga.
So the other thing, while he's getting his bundle, the other thing with the shrine is, like we were saying, bring your business into it, but you can have all kinds of things in it. Like the shrine is Mark's, but he went to the UK, and when he went, I just took over it, you know, and because all my stuff's packed, and then it became this kind of side of it, and I picked things out of it that they mean something to me. They mean something totally different to Mark, you know, and so I look at them and that's such and such and that's such and such, and my grandfather's on there, and I don't know who they are to Mark, but they're someone to me, and I have this relationship with these things, and when I have troubles or I'm, you know, need some advice or something, I actually go and I speak to them, and I'll do it like 4 or 5 times a day sometimes.
Yeah, cool. Because
first thing in the morning when nothing's working out. Here's my bundle. I keep it wrapped up in an old pair of jeans.
Okay.
It's just basically, so it was a bit of a cloth T-shirt that I ended up cutting up and putting some cotton string. I can't see it there.
No,
in there is all sorts of things like sand and some bone and some corn from Guatemala and some blue stones. It's just stuff that was part of this story about going through the boy's childhood. It's a bit hard to explain it in a brief sitting, but it was initiation. It was a male initiation process, and not like hanging my nipples from wood from the tree for 2 days, but more just going through the story of the male journey to manhood.
I know, and, that would
this is a powerful thing, and it has a powerful emotional effect for me. If I get really upset, this just has the ability. It just has a lot of meaning for me. But to anyone else, I don't think so. It would be in the bin, wouldn't it? And that's
factor, maybe. Not really.
Marlins from the military police, because they were like looking for gold, kept finding these things and going, that's no good, and wonder where all the gold was.
So I guess I could put anything on there to represent my business that just meant something to me. I don't have to.
Could have,
and grow it.
And you could have all different parts, because you could have your creative side, you could have your
business side,
crazy side, you could have your colourful side, you could have, like, mine's got there's 4 different me's on there because it's different parts.
Is there a tantra you on there?
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
This is where it ties in with the tantra, because as you start your tantra journey into Western tantra, the sensuality version and so forth, you put it on the shrine, and it means it will start to anchor something more of deeper meaning to you in that, and it will grow as you grow with the journey.
We could segue back a bit to that, I guess. Like when I started yoga and I was living with all these crazies, and I found the Tantra book, and I think I was 18, and they were like, well, you don't get to read that book yet. And I guess at that point, what I had read, like before I got in trouble for reading it, was that it wasn't about sex, that the West had misinterpreted it. And what it said Tantra was really made a lot of sense, even though I couldn't really unpack it because I was quite young. Like, I'd been at school and I'd lived a couple of years, and then I ended up there. So with that construct, as well as being really unwell, I couldn't really unpack it properly. But it's like the explanation of it stayed with me, and it's like my whole life since then I've been unpacking experiences and now I say it, I realize unconsciously, like, I have been reflecting everything back on that measure of trying to understand it, because people here be like, oh yeah, you know, and they've got a new boyfriend or girlfriend, we're going to have a tantric relationship. I'm like, oh yeah. You think so? Like, I don't, it's just a very limited view.
You're cracked. You're.
Oh no, my internet.
Yeah.
Your internet.
My internet.
It might be us.
It makes sense at this end. It may be, because mine hasn't glitched at all. But anyway, I'm interested that you do focus on what you guys call Western Tantra, so the sensuality aspect of it. And I have come around in my life now to experience something of similar to the story you said from the Indigenous story of just being in physical relationship with my partner and not having an agenda. And so when I can get to that place with our physical engagement, like our Western Tantra, then it's good, and I'm always satisfied because I don't have an expectation. I'm just really meditative. Like, I am just aware of what's going on. So I'm guessing that that's something similar to what your work is.
Yeah. Well, for us, Tantra, we avoid the sexuality, especially at the beginning, to some extent. And we focus everything on the heart. So it all becomes about bringing anything that you're too much in your head, bring it down to your heart. Anything too much in your sexuality, and a lot of people are running a lot of stuff with their sexuality to the heart. And so we actually stop people. Well, stop people, it's not the right word, but we get people to start to be more aware of being in their heart in approaching the early stages of experiencing Tantra, because that's where you can open safely and not need to rush through things and start to experience the subtleties that you'll be missing if you're running in your head, and the subtleties you'll be missing if you're running in your sacral, your sexual energy. And a lot of people get wrapped up in a lot of confusing stuff with their sacral energy, and it's a power that's best kind of left till a bit later when you're much more anchored in here and much more grounded and safe, and you know exactly what you're up to. It makes a lot of sense. So everything we do, we call heart tantra, heart yoga, and it begins with this. And actually, the other aspect we really noticed early on is when you get people to come into their heart and work from the subtlety, if you then do anything too sexual, it will actually bring more trauma or more impact to them than they would necessarily if you weren't working in tantric practices. So there's lots of, we actually really reduce what people are doing in terms of this, to the real basics at first, especially. And heart yoga, it's all about heart for us. So we're not really actually Western Tantra sexuality, but a lot of people out there do it.
And then I guess personally, I always had a bit of a dilemma with the heart space, because I did lots of yoga nidras and they really talk you through what it should be like. Like, it should be like this, and you have the Jodie, and I'm like, I'm actually not experiencing that. Like, I'm superimposing that on. But what does happen for me is I do get such intense heartache kind of thing. And like when I sit a big course, at the end of the course, I just feel actually like, and I get it a lot actually, like my heart is kind of exploding or something, or like cracking or aching or something. And yeah, so I'm interested in what kind of practice you might do to get someone into their heart space, or something about that.
It kind of takes about an hour, and it's like 4 steps, and so it's very subtle, and it's about actually getting people to connect with each other but not touching each other. So it's just noticing that subtlety between and the energy that's going on separately. And then the next process is kind of then noticing what it is like to touch a person, but for it to be non-sexual. So again, you have that experience of contact without that, and then the next and so by the end of it, they're actually hugging. But this is the thing, like Mark was saying before, we're so conditioned to use our sexuality to connect with another that when we meet each other and it's a true heart connection, it is painful, because we don't open this and we keep it very protected. It's like open heart, big fence kind of thing, and it's because it needs to be done so slowly, because we've been so conditioned to protect this. This is where our hurts are, but we could meet somebody and have sex, like we could do that, but we traumatize ourselves, so and this is all about you. It's not actually about the other person. It's just that the other person's energy is used as a conduit to kind of help you there, because as masculine, feminine, you've got that cycle of energy that we have from as women that comes from our heart, goes into the male chest, goes down through his body, comes into our sacral and back up through our body. So
that's an important aspect that we talk to the men about straight away, is that it's about being still for the masculine and allowing your heart to receive from the feminine heart, because the circuit is obviously the male sexual energy is quite forward moving, whereas the female heart energy is penetrative. So the female heart energy can penetrate the masculine, and it's about us holding stillness in presence, and it's really challenging. But probably by about the second or third workshop, definitely, most guys are absolutely loving that aspect and no longer actually interested too much in the sexuality side, because it's such a new experience to stand there and feel this overwhelming feminine energy present in your heart and just go, wow. it's nourishing. That's the key word in all this as well.
Mm.
And you can do it for yourself, you can, but it is a different practice. So.
Mm. Oh, I like the sound of all that.
It's
fluffy,
yummy.
but I all love it. We wish we could do more of it. The more we could do, the better. We run them weekly at the moment, but I'd do them nightly if I could.
Sounds nourishing. It does. Like, it makes me think of times where that my partner is quite good at being still, like even just in the kitchen if we're having a cuddle, he can just receive and give to me. And so that's all triggering, like I'm aware of those processes, but it's interesting to hear the energy circuit that you explained. And that reminds me of Alex Gray artworks. You probably know them. Yeah, they're amazing with all the circuits. And I've always just thought, I kind of wish I understood that in my real experience. But at the same time, I figure life's long and I don't really want to rush them. Like, I don't want to do the superimposing thing anymore. I don't want to go like, oh, this is my heart space and that's my Jodie. Like, I just don't want to do that. I want it to be really organic.
And if you think about Tantra, and we talk about, Western Tantra, and they talk about, for women especially, don't seek a clitoral orgasm, like don't seek it. It's not what we're supposed to do. And I'm with you. It's like, why take away that thing? It's like, go, if your heart is where you need to go and it's yearning for you, then go there. And if you need to go to the other place and get yourself off, go there too. Like, go with what you need. Your body knows. So, and it's all powerful, because your sexual energy is your creativity and it's your juice and it's all that kind of stuff. And once we've got a really healthy relationship with it, we can just use it for such amazing things.
And I notice it tied also in with my blood cycle. Probably TMI to some people, but I don't really care. Like, I really notice my creativity in that context of when I'm excited about things. Like, the business is a great reflector of because it's only mine. Like, everything else in my life is so other people, and so it's very easy to write it off, like the kids or my partner or, when I interact with other people. But the business, it feels really like just my little headspace process. So if I am feeling really juiced up and full of amazing ideas, or I am just feeling like I really don't give a shit this week, or I do feel down, or whatever, the whole roller coaster thing. But yeah, I guess that's a factor as well. There's the Tantra of having a period.
Well, yeah, and it's going with the flow, but it's going with the flow. It's feeling and using your core stuff, whatever if you need to color in, like, if you want to meditate, if you need to lie in the sun, whatever it is that nourishes you and gives you the stuff that you can keep being with yourself, then who cares what it is,
So the core things, do you think there's things within your business that are core things, as well as, for me, when you say that, it makes me think, oh, you're going to the beach. It's totally a core thing. For me, like, I just get so fed from the energy of the earth, or like the river's close. But, getting into nature where I feel like I am plugged into that source of nourishment. Is there a way you could tap into that through your business activities?
Well, I think it's difficult because, as we know, there's a patriarchal system that has developed business, and even though there's a lot of women going into that, they're actually going into it and then doing lots of stuff, and so it's actually still the same old business model that we're all working to. And I think that's one of the challenges of the next evolution of business, is to actually really successfully find a way to introduce real core stuff into business, rather than just using the names and the jargon and the keywords that sound great, but actually are not really doing anything. So I think that's going to be one of the big challenges coming up, is for people to really do that core stuff that is nourishing in a business setting, in the corporate world, because it's a challenge to believe that if your workers feel good, they will work well. It's still not going on out there. It might be in entrepreneurial businesses, but then how much of the work day are you having to work to do your admin, your taxes, feed the family, and do all the work, it's pretty hard to find the time. So yeah, go for a walk in nature, but actually you're not working in nature. You're just
that's right.
So how we introduce it, that's the next big question. I think things like shrines and tantra in the workplace.
Shrine in the workplace would be amazing.
Yeah. You could have a shrine for the business.
Yeah, just for the business.
Stuff like that. That is go through the concept.
So if there's any entrepreneurs watching, then what could they do? Like, do you think shrine and just not being so push, just allowing the feminine into the business more?
Well, I think you have to make the space. It's like for anything organic to happen, nothing organic really ever happens without a container that is actually quite well designed for it to grow in, or someone nurturing it. And it's the same with business. And I think you actually have to look at your own life, because it's what you're taking into the business place and what you're compromising in the business place or not. So that's why all the core stuff is valid, because it means you're looking at all the different aspects of your life, where the tantra in your heart and how you're connecting with your family, with friends, your lovers, or whatever, and people around you, and then some other aspects, meditation, and everything. The shrine, because it puts you really focusing what you're doing in this space in life. Why are you alive? Why are you even here? What's going on? Why have you come here? Where are you going after? All these things are actually relevant to what the hell you're doing in the business space. But when you talk about that in the corporate world, there's no time.
Yeah, that's a whole other. I guess that's why we're there, right? That's why we're on Blab being entrepreneurs, because we just can't handle that.
And finding a way to bring it in realistically is quite difficult. And it's happening as well. It's slowly getting.
I guess we can just do it on an individual level.
I think so. That's where it starts at the moment.
Beautiful. I love you guys.
Thank
It's the Queensland crew tonight, because look, Claire's on and she's in Queensland as well.
Hi, everybody.
Can you imagine? I can give props now. I was so immersed in my discussion.
Man, look.
I forgot all about that. That was a good chat. Well,
Thanks, love. Excellent.
That was great. Maybe I'll stop the recording and start again, because it's kind of different, isn't it? Different.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you think?
Tough act to follow.
No way. No
way. You're awesome, but you're all in the dark room.
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we are on Blab. It's another bertablab, and I've got Claire has just jumped on. Claire Barton.
Hey.
And tonight we're just having a kind of different bertablab. Instead of the mega, we're going in for just some little
micro blab.
I know, I didn't want to talk it down. I actually didn't promo it at all, so that's okay. Here we are doing our blabs. And Claire, how do I even explain what you do anymore? What do you even do anymore? Have you got a title?
It's such a good question. Yes, I'm calling it an online ops and business manager.
I like it.
And in my signature, I've also got things like productivity coach and organizational guru, and whatever else kind of seems right depending on who I'm emailing. It's kind of evolved from. I guess 2 or 3 months ago, it was like, I'm really good at organising stuff. So do you need anything you want to organise, or, that's what I'm going to do to actually helping people kind of run their business on the back end of stuff. So ops management and I guess a bit of HR sort of style management and kind of like high level VA, but not VA sort of thing. Sort of the next level, like a bit, so somewhere between probably a VA and a business coach, I suppose.
Because when I saw you for a session, we talked about, my systems, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't have at that point.
Yeah.
And we also talked about if I had something big I was working on, which I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I really was ready for you. Do you know what I mean? But it was good to. It was good. Like every time I talk to someone, it's good just to talk through things.
It's so good to just extrovert whatever it is that's, you don't even know you need to extrovert sometimes. But when I sort of started last year, I was kind of just, like, I did my avatar interviews, and then I did that, crazy $25 for an hour promo or whatever, to kind of just do a bit of a brain dump. And that kind of spilled over from there. And then obviously Tash Corbin asked me to be her ops manager, and then that kind of, everyone wants what Tash is having, which is kind of a blessing in disguise for me. So that's been really beautiful. It's grown overwhelmingly quickly and kind of been a bit of a whirlwind for the last 6 weeks or so, but it's sort of quieting down now a little bit. I think I ran a promo for about 3 or 4 weeks and was just getting booked out, and I've hired a couple of people to sort of help out with some of the VA stuff that's come out of it. So it's been amazing. It's a really great problem to have had, but it has been a massive learning curve as well to kind of get my systems in place so that I can, kind of handle all of that sort of thing. So yeah.
So if someone comes to you now, then do you still do the brain dump?
Yeah, so the 2-hour session that I've been running as like an intro sort of session for the last 5 or 6 weeks is kind of they're all a little bit different from each other, but they generally sort of follow this, like, the business owner kind of tells me a bit about their business and where they're at, what sort of systems and processes they already have in place, and what is and isn't working, and what they do and don't like. And we sort of work out a bit of a, I guess, like a schedule, like a timeline of their business as usual stuff. So the things that need to be done on a regular basis, all the boring stuff that no one really wants to do, and so it doesn't get done, and then they feel this overwhelm from having 6 months worth of stuff to catch up on because they just haven't sort of made time for it. But then we also go into things like projects that they're working on. So if they're developing a course or writing a book or implementing a new system, or all of that sort of passive and leveraged income that a lot of people are kind of moving towards, and making sure that they're balancing some time and planning into actually developing that. So they're not sort of, I guess it sort of come from a place where I've found a lot of people who had tried to, go from clinical to online or something, and then they've got 6 months down the track and gone, I've got 25 new systems, I don't know how to use any of them, and I've got no income because I've focused purely on trying to transfer to online, and I haven't nurtured my clinical, like my one-on-one people or whatever. So it's just sort of about getting that balance right. And the next steps on from that, I suppose, is putting into place like actions and a bit more of a plan around content management and social media management. And I'm not a content management or a social media person or a marketing person by any stretch of the imagination. But most of the time with all the stuff I'm doing, the people I'm working with have the answers. They just can't get it into a system that's working. So I just kind of help them make it work. And with a lot of the ongoing people that I'm working with, it's a lot about accountability, and they just want someone to check in and talk to about it every week, and kind of make sure that they've got that sense of urgency and a bit of a plan, and it's stepped out really easily so they know what kind of each week looks like between now and their launch, or whatever it is. So yeah, they kind of
provide that. You provide the, like, by next week you will have done X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I do. And it's not in terms of like, you have to do this, and, I'm not a JFID or whatever. It's, one of those sort of coaches that's just like, just bloody do it, whatever. It's really about making, working out what it is that's actually important to them, helping them through that process to define what their priorities are, and in what order things need to be done, and what needs to be done in order for the next thing to be done, and who can we get to help you with that, and kind of making that process just feel a lot less heavy on them. So they've kind of just got like, okay, I've got 10 weeks to get this done, so we work backwards from there. But then if we put together a plan and we've said, how about this, why don't we try and get this done in the next week, and then we chat the next week, it's just a matter of how did it go, like what did you find. And sometimes it's, I've done all of this and more. Sometimes it's, I'm really having a block around this, so then we can work on what that block looks like. Or is it actually just that we don't have the right systems in place, or is it a training opportunity to show you how to make things a bit easier? And then the next step, I guess, there's quite a few people who are also doing some VA stuff. So a lot of them have already had VAs in the past and it hasn't worked for one reason or another. So they've hired someone and it's just been too hard to kind of train them, or they didn't have the same skills that they wanted them to, or it's like by the time you've emailed them and asked them what to do, you could have just done the job yourself and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of, I guess a couple of things. I'm sort of trying to bridge the gap between that. So as I said, I've got some VAs that have been working for us and hopefully a couple of new people coming on board in the next couple of weeks, so that I can kind of manage that system. So I know, say if I was working with you, I know your business, I know your expectations, you know what my standard is, and then we farm things out to a VA to do like those sort of general basic admin stuff, but I manage the process from them and I make sure that it's a good high standard before it gets back to you.
Nice.
It's got my stamp on it, so it kind of takes that stress out of that anxiety of like having to manage a person. You've kind of got someone who's working strategically at the same level as you and then taking care of all the admin stuff as well. But on the other side, for people who like don't want that, or they don't have the budget for a VA or whatever, that we can kind of get some SOPs in place and just some systems so that when you do it yourself, or when you're ready to have a VA, it's all ready to go. You can just say, this is how my newsletters are done, and this is how often I will be uploading content, and this is what you need to do with it from there on. So it just takes out the, it's kind of like, you know, when you used to work in corporate or whatever, and you had the policies and procedures manual that was like this thick, and you had to sign it at the end of your first day saying you've read everything, and no one ever read anything. But it's kind of like a mini version of that. So if you were in any doubt and you needed to, you know, teach someone how to do something, you could just say, yeah, check this out, I'll show you once, and then it's written down for you anyway. So as we're kind of going through a lot of these processes, it's kind of just refining what sort of timelines people want. And, you know, some people with their content creation, for example, will do like a whole week, a month, and all they do is content creation, and they really batch everything. Other people just want to do 10 minutes a day of content creation, and it's like a, you know, ongoing process all the time. So it's a personal thing. But it's all doable. It's just about having some systems in place and making it feel supported and easy, and just taking the shitty, oh, I've got to do my bloody expenses again or whatever. Yeah, so
it sounds to me like really when you're ready to up level. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was looking back at the Blab notes from the last Blab we did, which was get back on your pony, and your tip was have a big thing that you're planning for. That was one of the that I think, and I feel like that's the impression I get from your work. It's like you're not really on your own anymore. It's like getting ready to up level. Like you're getting Claire's help, and also you're getting ready for like when things totally start to blow up. So I wonder, is there like a mindset? Does it come on to mindset work with people as well?
I guess so, and I don't really know how to articulate that because it certainly hasn't been something that I've consciously done, but I guess a lot of the people who I'm working with probably are getting a bit of that accidentally. And I think because I've worked with so many business people in my own business and so many other businesses, that I've kind of got quite a good understanding and idea of what's okay and what's not okay. And so some people who are really worried about, I can't start my business, my fitness business, because I'm not thin enough, or I can't put any blogs or any content out because I only have one written and I don't know what the next one is going to be called, and I can't put my website, make my website live because it's not completely perfect. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, and someone messaged me recently, a couple of times actually, and said, "Oh, I really put my hat off to you because you've put this out there and it wasn't perfect." And my first response was, someone thinks I've done something and it wasn't perfect. And then I was like, hang on a minute, this is my new thing. Like, I'm just going to do it, because if I wait till it's perfect, I'll never do it. And I've had enough of doing that sort of thing. And I really want to kind of spread that sort of thing as well. So I guess there's a little bit of mindset in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do find that. I find even in my work, like doing marketing work with people think they're coming to talk to me about sales, but really they've come to talk to me about self-confidence. And so it's not that I'm necessarily going to work on their self-confidence with them, but I can at least show them, like, this isn't really a sales issue. It's actually a self-confidence issue. So you could go and do this kind of work or that kind of work and then you'll be ready to just charge forward there, because I'm like you as well. I used to always hold out for perfection, and now I see it totally gets in the way. You have to just put yourself out there before you're really ready, and most of the time it's all in my head. Like, my website's a classic example. I really don't like it, and it's like, oh my God, it's good enough, just make it happen and go away. And because it's not my main channel for leads, I'm like, well, that's not a priority. Like, I've been able to prioritize, and it turns out people really like it. And I always do this, like, really? And it's so funny that we hold ourselves back, but really the way other people perceive what we've presented is that it's really great.
Exactly. Yeah. I think something that's become really kind of obvious to me, maybe only in the last 3 to 6 months, is that I feel like I'm so forgiving with everyone around me, and I'm so like, stop stressing about it. I'm so like, and I'm so get so I don't know, exasperated about some people with trying to be so perfectionist about things. And I'm like, oh Christ, just do it already. Like, it's no big deal. But then when it came to myself, I was the complete opposite, and I hate hypocrisy. So I've really tried to kind of get my shit together with that sort of thing. And just be a bit more forgiving and a bit more kind and a bit more human. And I think that's been a really big message in terms of the like feminine business model that, you know, is so different to what I've been used to working in corporate and that sort of thing, about having this, you know, you've got to put on the game face, and everything has to be, you know, above board, and what you show is completely different to what you're actually feeling, and that sort of thing. And it's just not a thing anymore. So
yeah, and I mean maybe it is good that you're following Jodie and Mark, because that was kind of the dilemma that we got to in that discussion. But I think I guess I haven't really been corporate. I was lucky, and I was just like a whacked out alternative freak for a long time, and then decided to do a degree, and there was like, I was on the brink of having to go professional, and sort of started thinking that I had to do that, and was super lucky and happened upon the community. Well, I don't even know what you call it. It's like an underground movement of female entrepreneurs. And so I was super lucky that I happened on that. And I think, I mean, maybe Mark was saying earlier, it's a thing in business that it's very masculine, and like you're saying, corporate, you have to have the mask on. But my experience of business is all through my own filter, which has just been so beautiful and supportive and loving and really alternative and really holistic and balanced. And I mean, there's a bit of push that goes on, but because I find it so repulsive, it sort of doesn't affect me. It's like, oh, I'm just vibing with the people who are vibing in the way I am, which is, you know, when you be vulnerable or authentic and not hung up on perfection, and you can just be your real self, how much love comes to you then in that moment when people tend to be like, oh, and, you know, support you. And I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, I think maybe we are solving the feminine dynamic in business in a way, just by being ourselves and just trying.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's the connection thing is so big, like just putting yourself out there and being okay with. So a big thing for me has always been in my personal life and my work life, not being liked. I really have not coped well with not being liked. And I still don't, to a certain
degree. Well,
there's been a few people. But I've got a real thing about it, and especially when someone doesn't like me, I try even harder to make them like me, usually.
Oh, that's always you.
Yeah, so I'm kind of just gotten to this point of going like, I'm okay if you don't like me. I don't actually want to spend time with you and to, you know, spend my energy and my efforts and time if you don't get me. Like but it's a really big shift for me, because I've always thought here's my dog.
Oh, hello, doggy. And I guess it's similar. Like, I had a few unsubscribes, and I started going on the, like, I have to problem solve and figure out what I did wrong. But I had unsubscribed right when I made a really fresh decision. Like, it's a decision that I have to constantly renew, is my decision to be as much my authentic self as I can. And so, yeah, I had decided to just start speaking more in my natural voice in email, and to communicate with my email peeps, because I feel like they've stuck around because it resonates. So I've sort of started taking liberties there, as in, oh, buddies, let's hang. And there was unsubscribes. I was like, well, that's really okay, because that was me being as real me as I can. And if they were drawn to the other me that was just confused, then that's okay.
Yeah, That's it. It's totally, and it's a hard thing it's a difficult point to get to because it feels almost isolating, but it's actually the opposite, I think, when you think about it, because you're not isolating yourself from anyone. You're actually just solidifying and strengthening your actual tribe, like the people who are supposed to be with you and who you're supposed to be with and who get you and who are going to help you, build your business by spreading the word about their connection with you is exactly what it needs to be. But it's just so, like, for me, it feels so different to what I've come from. And I've come from a very supportive corporate world, and even when I was in retail, it was an excellent business to work with. But it is so different, and I do sometimes find myself accidentally but automatically thinking in terms of the old business crap and having to actually reconcile the difference internally with, like, no, this isn't what I'm doing anymore, and it's okay to, whatever it is. So, yeah, it's quite cool.
Yeah, and I like what you
It's
said
really
before as well about there's a couple of things that struck me. I'm just trying to work at the moment. Well, I am working at the moment on a group program that I want to do live training, and a huge piece of it for me is having, because my thing is that marketing is like an ongoing thing. You're not just going to do your marketing and then never do your marketing again. It's like if you're going to market forever. It's just part of it. So I'm trying to do this really low price point group program where I do live training, but the main thing that I think is the mega benefit of it, which is what I really got from Takeoff, that I think we're on the same Takeoff. What I really got from Takeoff was I suddenly know 20 people online in this weird zone where it's so hard to get to know people because we're all just little icons and we're whatever text we type. But being in a group program makes it so real that you're on a live call, people hear you and see you, and then you shout out for each other, or someone says, I need my assistance, and someone else be like, Claire Barton's your girl. Like, it's just that is so irreplaceable in business. And I think it's partly accountability, so it's partly what people come and see you about, or momentum. I mean, it's a lot of what you do, but the group thing is so exciting for me.
Oh my gosh,
so much out of it. But you've got a group thing in your own structure there.
Oh my gosh. The group thing has been absolutely incredible. Like, some friends and other business or women who are like my friends who are thinking about doing businesses that I've been speaking to recently, and they say, how's the business going? I'm like, oh my God, it's so busy. It's kind of, my head's in a bit of a twist. I don't even really know what I'm doing. And it's all come from group marketing. I haven't done any ads. I haven't done any paid things. Like, the only things I've really paid for is like my Squarespace and my domain name and, all those sorts of things. So I'm doing everything super, super lean startup, and the only marketing I've done is the group thing. And I know I've tried to do the group thing a few times, and it's kind of been like, I'm not really getting into it. But I've really noticed it, like, just spending like a good month or two really immersing myself in a few groups and working out and identifying which ones are kind of yielding the connections that I want them to, have made the biggest difference. And I review that once a month or thereabouts, just to make sure that, like, I'm still in the right groups and I'm still, making the connections, because people sort of come and go through some groups, and some groups that are great for 1 month aren't great the next month, and, for whatever reason.
The group thing.
But the power of social networking and the groups and just word of mouth. I did an awesome session with Katie Wyatt a couple of weeks ago. And later that afternoon, I had a message from Kat Abianak, who was in another group online, and she sent me some screenshots saying, God, you're popular today. And Katie had put something on saying, I've just hired an ops manager and I'm so excited and all that sort of thing. And then within the next 24 hours, I had, I think, 8 messages from the UK and the US with a couple of, I think I've done 4 sessions, and two of them will be ongoing clients. And it's just like a group that I didn't even know existed, but it had 25,000 people in it.
Cool.
That they've sort of jumped on the back. But like, it's just crazy that that's how it works. But I think that's also a thing about the feminine structure of business, that we do have each other's backs. And my favourite quote at the moment is, like I'm not interested in competing with anyone. I hope we all succeed, something along those lines. I'm really just connecting with that at the moment because, like I said, the competition thing has been a really big thing for me of going, oh, no, I'm not good enough and everyone's going to be doing it better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's okay because they connect with different people. I connect with different people. We can all have our people and we can all be successful. So,
yeah. I heard a cool African proverb similar. It was like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I was like, oh, I get that.
So true. Yeah.
And maybe that is more the feminine aspect of business. Well, that's a good start. I think we caned it, right?
Yay, thank you.
Have time
Thanks for having me.
Cool. It's good. It's my pleasure. Do you have I don't know, what do you got going on? Is there anything you want to put in the chat? You're just too busy.
I'm kind of too busy. It's a really nice problem to have, but I'm too scared to put anything on offer day because I don't want anyone to take me off because I haven't got time until like April. I'd love some more people on my list so that when I do start to do my newsletters that I can connect with some people. So I'll put my website on and do the sign up form on that. Maybe that's the best one.
Yeah, do that. Pop it in. I think Delaney is saying you did. I don't know what you're on about, Dan. But yeah, we did. What did we did? Can't remember now. There she is, clever. You did nail it. Yes,
nailed
it. Nailed it.
Thanks, babe.
Good. That's a nice chat. It's good to have a chat. Maybe I'll end. I don't know. I think I'm just mentioning that I'm getting ready to do this group program. I think I'm launching on April 1st. I don't know. I just
April Day.
I know, crazy times. And I'm doing a webinar on the 17th, and I'll do another webinar maybe on the 30th. I'm going to webinar
of March.
Yeah, I love webinars so much.
I've never done one yet.
Oh, they totally work for me because I'm such a like blah, blah, blah. So I do a little bit of like blah, 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 and then we have chats, like we all chat, and it's just really nice. I nearly cried the last one. It's just really nice. So
it's nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Cool.
I'm unpacking marketing theory stuff because I just finished uni. I'm about to get my, what do you call it? The thing.
Your degree?
Yeah, I'm about to graduate. So I've got all
get the piece of paper.
Yeah, I do that theory. It's still fresh. So I'm going to just grab bits of it and turn it into something much more lovely than the masculine interpretation of it. Because I think it is sound. Like a lot of it is based on research and lots of people have put lots of effort in and it's based on experience. So there's a lot of good going there, but some of it is just like manipulative. Some of it is manipulative.
Some of it's just dirty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not good. So we won't be doing anything not good. We'll be being like blended sugar. But maybe like with dungarees on.
Yeah.
Have a good night, beautiful.
Lovely. I will. You too. Thanks so much for having me again.
My pleasure.
Have a good night for a blab.
Yeah, good night for a blab.